check this lineup out from Charlie Davies. Same back four, back five, okay? And then he's got Yunus Musa, Tyler Adams as like a double pivot, a little bit deeper for Yunus Musa on this one. Brendan Aronson in front of him. Timo Weah at the 9, Christian Pulisic left wing, and then at right wing, he's got Gio Reyna.
I like it. I think it's not sitting back and waiting for things to happen, not absorbing too much, but still having guys that are ready to work and get after it. Most specifically, Brendan Aronson, because if Weston McKennie isn't 100%, I don't know if you risk him in this one. If you do think you're going to rely on him in the Iran game, which obviously could prove to be the one we need to win and have to win to get to the knockout rounds, I don't know if I'd want to risk him if he can't go and cover the ground that we're going to need him to. I really like Brendan Aronson in that space. I think it's going to force a Declan Rice or Jude Bellingham to have to be a little bit more thoughtful about where he is and have to track him a little bit. Whereas I think Weston will, I mean, I know that he loves and makes great late runs, but I think Brendan Aronson would probably give us a little bit more with regard to that. So
I like that pressing, by the way. I like Brendan Aronson pressing from that spot too, eliminating that 6 or even pushing out to eliminate a center back. Because Brendan Aronson, I think, is always the catalyst in the way that we press because he's the best at that. And I think that could eliminate some of that playing through that we've perhaps suffered from where, you know, we arrive late, second player arrives late, third player arrives late, and now we find ourselves having to sprint 40 yards to put out a fire.
I think the big question for me is almost not necessarily on us. I do think, and I like that lineup. Obviously, you know, everybody knows that listens that I want Timo Weah in the number 9. I'd love to see it. And why not this game? He's in full confidence right now. But is England going to play 4 in the back? And they looked pretty good doing that against Iran. Or are they going to go back to what Gareth Southgate likes to do or feels more comfortable doing when they're playing?
Why would you switch now?
Just because that's what he traditionally does, and that's how he's traditionally played in big tournaments up until this point. Against Iran, they knew they were going to run Iran, or at least be in a better position to do that so they could add an extra attacking player. And I'm curious to see if he's going to roll with a back 4 or if he's going to go to a back 3 and have wing backs. That's the big question for me, and I'm sure that's something that Gregg Berhalter.
I mean, I know Walker's training again. Walker's training again, but Harry Maguire is also just on the fence in terms of his recovery for this match, knowing that he took a little bit of a knock last game, as well as Harry Kane, who Jordan Pickford just came out and said that he was in training and he's good again. But at the same time, you know, good and great in terms of how you're going to need him throughout the tournament. Is it worth risking him against the U.S.?
I don't know, Chuck. What do you think?
I think if you're England, you're not risking anyone if they're not 100%. Harry Kane, I had the scans. I guess it was positive news. Does England think they could probably beat us without Harry Kane? I think they do think that. So it's one of those things where, yeah, we're looking at the future of this tournament and the future of Harry Kane and his involvement. So if there's any doubt or soreness, he's not playing in this game. I wouldn't play him if I'm Gareth Southgate. What are you hearing on the ground there, Jimmy, in Qatar, as far as, you know, I think that first half, we were all super proud and happy with this U.S. team. They looked dominant, controlling the game. Mm-hmm. And then Wales made adjustments. We did not. If anything, we took our foot off the gas. So are you hearing that there's going to be certain changes? Are people still optimistic and positive?
Yeah, no, I hear in terms of inside the team, you know, everybody's disappointed. Naturally, you have a 1-goal lead in a World Cup. You're close, 10 minutes away from getting 3 points, which obviously what the fun fact is that when this tournament format switched to 32 teams in 1998, if you win your first group game, it's an 84% chance of getting to the knockout rounds. We were so close to that. And so it's a little bit disappointing. Now, if you tie your first game, it drops down to about 50% to get through. So we were, you know, the guys are disappointed, but I heard that the spirits are still pretty high, that there's still a lot to be positive about. And when you look at that second half, and I know it's been talked about by a lot of pundits back home, that we just missed a lot of passes. You know, we had opportunities when Wales was pushing forward, and we didn't take those transition moments going the other direction or make the right decision in the right moment, or the pass was a little bit too far, or it was too heavy, or whatever it is. And so if we clean those opportunities up, because we're going to have less of them against England, then that is probably going to solve some of the problems and relieve some of the pressure. And obviously, we're going to have to be clinical in front of goal. That goes without saying. But what I find interesting, to get back to Harry Kane versus like a Marcus Rashford to start, Harry Kane has been doing this quite well for his club and with the national team as well, where he drops in to the space. That will pull Zimmerman and Areem into that area, and then the other guys run through and try to create that depth and get in behind the defense. Heung-min Son obviously does that well for Spurs when they're playing together. But if Rashford comes in, that's completely different. And I wonder if Gregg's looking at that and saying, am I going to just stick with Ream and Zimmerman no matter what? Or will I change it because I want to see something different? Not that CCV, Cameron Carter-Vickers, or Aaron Long are as fleet as foot. Maybe a little bit more. I don't know. I guess it's up for discussion. But, yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I love this game for a lot of different reasons. It's going to be a great challenge for our guys. And I hope that we're up for it and that we're doing the little things that will get the fine margins in our favor.
Heath,
Charlie,
if Weah is not the 9, if he's back on the right wing, who is starting up top for you?
I mean, this one's hard for me personally, just because I know that Gregg used the reference of Josh Sargent knowing these guys or having played against these guys, which I do think has some more so knowing that he can scrap and fight, or knowing what it's going to take to play against the physical defender, even though I think the Bundesliga has just as physical of defenders as well. But I'm almost thinking Ferreira at the moment, or somebody who can come up underneath, because I referenced it earlier, Charlie, but Jimmy, before you came on, of somebody that can not necessarily scrap and battle for the long balls, but can give us a little bit of verticality if you have to, but is able to come back in, get almost like a Harry Kane type, come back, lay the ball off, and get it out to the wings. Because once we've done that, when we have up, back, and out the other side, we are so effective in that, right? We are so good at least getting on the release. And again, like you said, in the second half, I thought we'd get into those positions and then not release that final ball when we were facing them to really take those chances to go for another goal. I don't know if that was for fear of turnovers or for fear of having to chase the ball down again or trying to protect the lead in a very conservative way. But that's the way that I'm looking at it. But that's where I'm torn. I'm stuck on Weah at the moment. But even Haji Wright, I kind of thought of okay, a big body, but what's Haji Wright going to do if he never gets the ball, right? What effect can he have on the game over 90 minutes if he's never in positions to help? What makes him good?
No, that's fair. That's got me thinking about some other things now that you said all that. It just makes me wonder if you have Brendan Aronson in that space and you have a Ferreira that's going to drop back in, and maybe Aronson can go in advance of him if he drops deep enough, which is fine as long as the balance and the spacing is good, then I don't mind that. I don't mind having a Ferreira come back in if obviously there's some talk about what are we going to do to get behind the ball. That means I said this before the Wales game, if Ferreira starts, we need Weah out wide because he does provide that verticality, because he does get to the end line. I do wonder about the spacing between Dest and Weah sometimes, if Weah is kind of in the areas that Dest wants to occupy and what that could look like. But that just means more and more repetitions. And so I want to hear from our resident number 9 on this. I also think with regard, before I get to you, Charlie, is we have that first game now under our belt. You know, we talk a lot about how young our team is. We're the second youngest team in this tournament behind Ghana. And I felt like we saw some nerves in that first game against Wales. Even though the first half was ours, when Wales actually tried to put us under it a little bit and we were under pressure, which we weren't in the first half. I think they were just trying to get to 0-0, conservative energy, and then punch us in the face in the second half. And it worked to some effect. But if we had maybe been a little cleaner in certain areas, I don't know. I think we're going to be a little bit better. I think that first game is under our belt, and I think we'll be a little bit more relaxed, or at least in theory, I hope that we will, Chuck.
Yeah, well, the pressure definitely helps because it's not on the U.S. players. It's on England. And so Charlie, the expectation is you lose, right? So for the U.S. guys, you can play free. You just know you have to play well to get a point. You have to play exceptionally well, and you have to we all know this, compete. You have to out.
Well, well doesn't mean beautiful. Well does not mean beautiful against England.
No,
that's true.
No, it doesn't. But in saying that, I think in moments within this game when there's a moment where the ball gets passed back to Jordan Pickford, you can move the lines up and wait for them to try and build out again. And then you're higher up the field, you press and you try and create that turnover. There are going to be moments like that throughout the game. So you're not just sitting back and saying, hey, come. But you have that flexibility to know, okay, guys, large portions of this game, we are going to have to defend. That's just how Tim Ream to be in a good position, he cannot be high up the field. We saw that. He cannot be required to go out to the touchline to defend if Anthony Robinson's too high. That's when the U.S. are toast.
Well, here's another. I just want to jump in on Tim Ream really quick because he got a yellow in that kind of situation where he gets turned. Really smart yellow. Got to do it in that part of the field. But if he gets another yellow, he's out for the Iran game. And so that is something that a couple of our players have to keep in mind. And maybe that works against Weston McKennie as well. If he's a little bit injured, he's already on a yellow, maybe we just save him for Iran and make sure we have him ready to go at 100%. But I just wanted to throw that in about Ream that, if we put him in a situation where he could be vulnerable, like any of our defenders in 1v1 situations against some good attacking guys. And Bukayo Saka obviously looks fantastic right now and has been in good form all season. The yellow stuff does make me worried. And yeah, there's a lot. I love this game.